Bitcoin has seen one of the greenest days in recent years, with a 14% rally equaling $7,000 increase in Bitcoin's price. Will Bitcoin continue aggressively toward the upside? Are the bears going to step back in? Will Bitcoin dominance breaking upwards negatively impact the probability for an altcoin cycle? And what else should we be paying attention to in relation to the upcoming expectations of interest rate reductions? In today's video, we are covering all of this and more. Let's jump in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic day, because Bitcoin sure is. With a 28% rally from the 49k bottom, and now one of the most bullish daily candles we have seen, coming close to $7,000, Bitcoin is absolutely soaring toward the upside, retesting now the midline of the macro descending channel as well as the 200 SMA. In today's video, we are going into massive detail in regards to the macro structures, the short-term price action, Bitcoin dominance, altcoin season, and so much more. Before we do get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion. Pure raw TA. That is the kind of content you are interested in. Join us on Telegram. It is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency. With Bitcoin and the relevant economic news, we have over 6,000 members in this channel. Go ahead and join the community. If you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, you can join us on VIP, where we post trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll also get access to our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our news, our help, our daily video, and our trade setup chat. If that is what you're interested in, go ahead and contact me in the pinned comment of the free channel by clicking my name or these links for more information. Let's go ahead, guys, and jump into the video. So taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily, we can see one of the most insane daily candles Bitcoin has seen for a very long time. In fact, I went back and had a look at the charts over the past 2 years, and this actually might be the largest single daily candle in terms of dollar change we have seen on Bitcoin for literally like 2 years now. It's absolutely insane, moving from 54,000 all the way up to 62.7 thousand in a matter of 24 hours. And as we can see, Bitcoin is now retesting a critical level, which is the 200 SMA, as well as the midline of this descending channel formation. And we're going to be discussing in the video today what this means and what is likely to occur next for Bitcoin. Moving over to the market data, with a massive move upwards, it is normal to see volume and liquidations increase. We have seen volume increase by 10%, sitting at 190 billion, and 25 liquidations are up 20%, sitting at a pretty large 244 million. Of the 244 million in liquidations, surprisingly 63 million have come from long positions, and 181 million have come from short positions. Moving over to the broader markets, the DXY is bouncing from that lower area of support as we discussed in our video yesterday. Again, we are still sitting within this higher time frame symmetrical triangle formation. If we do see a break of this uptrend, that is going to result in a massive correction for the DXY, and that would be massively bullish for risk assets. If we take a look at prior cycles, during those massive moves for the DXY, we generally also see large moves for risk assets. We're looking for a correction here for the DXY, which should send risk assets higher. And again, if we do see a break above here, that is going to be that worrisome area, that danger zone. I do find that to be quite unlikely for now. The S&P 500 has basically come back from the grave over here, bouncing back above the 5,300 level. Absolutely one of the most insane weeks we have really seen in the stock market and for cryptocurrency for a very long time. If we look at that weekly candle for even for Bitcoin over here, An absolutely insane week it has been. Look at that week toward the downside, not only for Bitcoin, but also for traditional assets, seeing some massive amounts of volatility amidst the fear of recession that has now been squandered, and we have seen the probabilities for interest rate reductions increase, pushing the markets up in anticipation, pushing the S&P 500 back over the major weekly high at 5,300 just in time for the weekly candle close in 21 hours. Again, it was looking freaking awful, but now it is looking very good. And if it does sustain above 5,300, it is very likely that this is the base of support before we see that continuation higher into the 6,000 region. As we have been saying, only the weekly close below 5,300 would invalidate, or should I say, would validate the start of a high time frame downtrend. Until then, we are on the edge of the cliff, but we are still very much above support. That is it, guys. Let's jump into Bitcoin. We're going to be taking a look at the short-term levels that you should be paying attention to. We'll be discussing the relevance of this high time frame range and the significance of our 200 SMA and midline, what this means for the short term and what this means for the macro. We'll also be taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, as Bitcoin dominance is breaking through a major level of resistance. We'll be discussing what this means for Bitcoin, as well as what it means for the altcoin market, and going over the total. We'll be getting into that just momentarily. A quick word from today's video sponsors. If you do want 15% off your lifetime trading fees, you can go ahead and sign the BitUnix, BitGet, or BingX down below. Again, this will save you tens of thousands, if not more money over the period of time you are trading. 15% off your trading fees for life. Go ahead and check them out, play an ad, and we'll get back into it. I'd like to introduce our partner, BitUnix. BitUnix is a global, non-KYC, no country restriction exchange, making it a perfect exchange to trade on if you're from the USA, from Canada, the Netherlands, or just prefer to trade without KYC. This exchange is a futures and spot exchange with over 200 different trading pairs and some of the lowest fees in the game. If you sign up with my link down below, you'll get access to 15% off your trading fees, as well as an exclusive reward center where you can claim up to a multitude in USDT prizes. So go ahead and sign up with my link down below for 15% off, and I'll see you in there. Okay team, let's go ahead and dive on back in, and we've timed this video perfectly because in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, we are going to see that daily candle close. And the daily price is sitting at 61,700. By the time you're watching this video, it will have obviously changed. But as of right now, we are sitting underneath the 200 SMA as well as the midline of the macro descending channel. The 200 SMA is sitting at a price point of around 61,780 and the midline around 61,880. So we're sitting just underneath these two critical levels. Now, let's take a look at why these levels are significant in terms of range high to range low movements. Historically, what we have noticed for this range is that generally when we break above, when we break above the midline, we generally notice a large directional shift in price action. We can also see the midline has acted as periods of support and resistance, which has resulted in rejections from this region or bounces from this region. So taking a look historically, we can see that when we retested this region, we saw a bounce upwards to range high. We then saw a breakdown of this region, eventually following a range low retest. We then saw a retest and rejection, soon following a breakout of the midline, resulting in a range high retest, and an eventual breakdown of the midline, resulting in a range low retest. We then saw a break above the midline, resulting in a range high retest, and just within the last week, we saw another break below the midline, resulting in a range low retest. So we can see a pattern developing. The midline acts as not only a trigger point, but a support and resistance on the short term as well. So, provided we sustain below the midline of the descending channel and the 200 SMA, which the 200 SMA is converging with the midline, there is a chance we could see some short-term rejections develop from this region. It is unlikely we are going to see a rejection from the midline result in a continuation to the range low. If we do look historically, that has happened twice within this channel, but it is unlikely we do see that, particularly if we are able to get back above the dotted trend line. So if we are able to get back above the dotted trend line and close a daily candle above the dotted trend line, as per what we have seen in the past, daily candle closes above the dotted trend line, particularly these two instances, have resulted in range high retests. So what we have seen is a fantastic bounce from the range low, and even better bounce from the 49k region. Again, if you are following us on Twitter, let's just go ahead to my Twitter page over here. You can see right over here, we told you guys, I believe the bottom is at 47 to 49, right over here, which is exactly where that bottom ended up being. We saw a 22% rally, 28% rally from that point. Absolutely fantastic. So what we can see is that daily candle has just closed underneath. We would like to see a daily candle close above the dotted trend line to thus validate the trend line has been broken and to confirm to us we are going to see that continuation to the range high. So that is the significance of the midline, and the 200 SMA is of course going to be a key psychological level as it is crossing over the midline as well. Until that happens, we could see short-term rejections. Now, whether or not those short-term rejections actually sustain into higher time frame corrections, that is a question we'll answer in the short-term analysis in just a moment. But in terms of the macro outlook, we have seen a fantastic move. I would not be aping into longs here if you're not already in them. And again, if we do want to see that continuation to range high, we would like to see a daily close above this dotted trend line. Perfect stuff. Let's zoom out. So as you can see, guys, the range of this channel, the range low and the range high, have still sustained. And even though we saw some violent corrections for the downside, we were managed to close a daily candle above the range low of this level. Absolutely fantastic, which means the current broader descending channel formation we are in is still valid. And this is a great thing because this descending channel formation is one of the main bullish, I would say, indications or bullish or points to the bulls that we are going to see a directional continuation upwards. The reason being is that descending channel formations are generally bullish consolidation patterns, and they do generally break toward the upside more often than they break downwards. So if we were taking a look at this structure, while we sustain within this channel, all price movement from range high to range low, all price movement between these levels is considered totally healthy and totally normal price action. Only a break above the downtrending resistance or below the downtrending support, and by break we are looking for a daily candle close below or above, would invalidate the structure or validate a break and continuation. We've been saying this for a very, very long time. For us to expect that next directional move upwards, which we are looking for a move to around 85,000 as per the measured move of this range, okay, the measured move of this range around 85,000. For us to expect and for us to see that move, we need to close a daily candle above the downtrending diagonal resistance, as the downtrending diagonal resistance is going to be the trigger point to activate that next move upwards. That is very, very crucial. So taking a look at the downside risk, if again we close below this dotted trend line, that would invalidate the expectation, which is Bitcoin is eventually going to break upwards, and that would destroy or dismantle that bullish narrative and push the price action much lower. Now, we do have to apply higher time frame and economic context to what is occurring, and we've discussed many times that looking at the expectations for interest rates, not the initial expectations in regards to how the market will initially react, okay, but looking at the long-term side effects as a consequence of falling interest rates and as a consequence reducing costs of debt, we know that those have positive impacts on risk asset prices, as the consequence of reducing interest rates eventually results in people, whether that be entities, companies, individuals, having more available cash to invest in assets, and having lower costs of debt and lower debt to service ratios, which creates an environment where debt is cheaper and people are more likely to acquire debt, particularly companies, to then hedge that debt into income producing assets, which are rising as a consequence of increasing inflation, which again makes them more money. This happens in every single cycle, every single economic cycle. We see exactly the same thing, guys. It is a proven formula. It is not so much a estimate. This is literally the mechanisms of how the economy functions. This isn't up for debate. This isn't up to contest. This isn't my opinion. These are hard, raw facts of how the economy functions. So we know for a fact that reducing interest rates eventually results in an environment which is positive for risk assets. So we do see that happen. It is more likely than not Bitcoin will follow the bullish path unless we see some sort of significant directional shift in the expectation for the economic narratives, or even a black swan event that completely shifts the economic climate in a whole different trajectory. So overall, guys, from a macro perspective, Bitcoin is still bullish. From a fundamental perspective, Bitcoin is still bullish. From a technical perspective, Bitcoin is still macro bullish. The question is now on the short term, what are we going to see? Are we going to see that continuation, or are we going to see that rejection? If we do see that rejection, what impact will that have? Will it have a big enough impact to invalidate this macro 5-month-long structure? So let's go ahead now and jump over to the short-term price action. This is going to be the short-term price action. These are the horizontal levels we are watching. As you can see, if we zoom out to a daily chart, we have got our major level of support right over here, which is at that $49 to $47,000 region. We'll zoom back into the 4-hour right now. So as we can see on the 4-hour, Bitcoin was able to break out of this weekly long downtrend. This downtrend spans since the start of or end of July, so about a 10-day long downtrend. We were able to break out of the downtrend. So Bitcoin is by all definitions now in an uptrend, right? Not only are we in an uptrend, we have now established a support at that 58.7 to 58.3 level. Therefore, if we were to see short-term pullbacks, we will be looking for corrections into the 58.7 to 58.3 region before we see directional continuations back upwards. If we were to drop below 58.7 to 58.3, we would then be expecting continuations on the downward trajectory. So right now we have established this as a support. We are above the support as well as above the downtrend. We are expecting, if this support is to be retested, it will be tested as a support, and thus we'd expect to bounce into the next level of resistance. However, if we drop below the support, we would therefore be flipping this into a resistance, and we could see a directional continuation lower. What do I mean by this? What I mean is while we sustain above 58.7, expect Bitcoin to eventually break above the midline and expect an eventual daily close. If we drop below 58.7 to 58.3, that is when the bears are back in control. Remember, we've said in the prior video, the bulls are in control above 58.3 to 58.7. On the short term, we could see a correction. If we do retest this resistance region, this is going to be the 64 to 63.5k region. This was a prior area of support. It is normal that this area should now be considered a prior area of resistance. So if we are looking for continuations higher, I would look for shorts within this region for a short-term scalp. But if we are able to break above this resistance, it is very likely Bitcoin is going to fly upwards into that 70k region and fly upwards to retest the macro downtrend of this channel. That is the short-term analysis, guys. Pay attention to 58.7 to 58.3 and pay attention to 63.4 to 64,000. Okay, let's jump over to Bitcoin dominance. We are seeing Bitcoin dominance break upwards. Now, this is a very, very good thing for Bitcoin, but not so good for altcoins. It means that, you know, as Bitcoin is moving upwards, is taking the lion's share, or the majority of money, and more money is flowing into Bitcoin and out of altcoins. It doesn't mean altcoins aren't going up, because if we do see the total market cap increase, which we have, we will see both altcoins and Bitcoin rise, but it does mean that altcoins are still weakening in comparison to Bitcoin. And if we were to see a correction on the short term for Bitcoin, say we see a correction, altcoins will likely bleed a considerable amount, because they are up a considerable amount in the last few days. So with Bitcoin dominance rising, it does, number one, influence the potential for our altcoin season negatively. It decreases the probabilities. But also, it could tell us we could see another Bitcoin cycle where Bitcoin solely rallies up massively, gaining massive value on altcoins in comparison to Bitcoin. So, in comparison to altcoins, sorry. So that's something you have to pay attention to. Again, for us to see an altcoin season, we do need to see Bitcoin dominance break. Now, that uptrend we have is represented by this diagonal trend line, but we could also look for the breakdown of the 50 EMA. So a loss of that 50 EMA and the uptrend will give us double confluence, and that is when we expect that correction. And upon the loss of those levels is when we should really start to see dominance flip from Bitcoin and into altcoins, and hopefully the total market cap is increasing, thus we would see an altcoin season. But while Bitcoin is breaking through its major resistance, I would not hold your breath for an immediate altcoin season. That doesn't mean altcoins won't perform well. They of course are going to perform well as long as the total market cap increases, okay? But in comparison to their Bitcoin pairs, they will likely continue to bleed if Bitcoin dominance rises. So taking a look at the total, we can see just how delayed over here the altcoin market really is. And again, if we look at Bitcoin, a massive rally here for Bitcoin, we are watching for respective breakouts of the range high on both Bitcoin and the total market caps to validate the next leg upwards. What does this really mean though? It means, once again, while Bitcoin is within the descending channel, the channel remains intact. Volatility is expected. Swings to range highs and range lows mean nothing for Bitcoin. It is only going to be the breaks of these range highs and the breaks of these range lows that have significant macro implications. So if you're looking at the short term, I would probably try to start to zoom out a little bit more, okay? I would start to zoom out a little bit. I wouldn't get caught up too much into short-term moves. Of course, if you are primarily in altcoins, that is when this pain of these swing lows become very apparent because Bitcoin dominance continues upwards. I said it in a prior video that if we look at when Bitcoin dominance was when we started this range, we look at what day was this? March, February 2024, and we look at where it was at the end of its range. So Feb 2024 was over here. Let's just go ahead. Bitcoin dominance was around 53%, right? We are still in that horizontal range. In fact, we're at around that same price point, but Bitcoin dominance is up, what? Another 4.5% since then. So altcoins have been bleeding a significant amount during this sideways consolidation or slightly downward consolidation for Bitcoin. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. See you then.